Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to join us to our first webinar this year. What I'll do is I'll start by sharing my screen, which I hope you should see now. So we are looking at the webinar 14, which we're going to work with our friends at Aggreko. So in terms of the program today, so it's about putting your phones and your camera off, but the session will be recorded, and it will be posted on our microsite, as well as the slides, and both the slides from Aggreko and the slide from Scottish Engineering. So you'll get all the information available on our microsites. So today I'm very, very pleased to be joined by Ian McLachlan, who is the Emission Reduction Manager at Aggreko, and who's going to take us through their learning so far and their findings on their route to net zero. Aggreko is planning to be net zero by 2030, and they've got a lot going on, including a significant investment in the Dumbarton site, which is the Aggreko headquarters, really. And they are looking at all sorts of opportunities, being solar, being the electricity they generate, being the lighting. So a lot of information, a lot of good stuff is going to come up here, and hopefully you'll find it really interesting. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Ian. Ian, if you want to share your screen and take over, and I'll stop sharing mine.
No problem. You can just let me know if that's sharing okay.
It's for me, yes.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Ian McLachlan. As Eric says, I'm based at Aggreko's Lomongate facility in Dumbarton. I'm part of Aggreko's ESG organisation, and I'm an emissions reduction programme manager within that team. What I'm looking to take you through today is give you an introduction to Aggreko as an organisation, and also just give you an idea of what we're planning as a global business in terms of our energy transition and decarbonisation. And also then I'll start to drill in major on activities that we've been carrying out and working on over the last number of years at our Lomongate facility in Dumbarton. Okay. So Aggreko, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have been in Scotland now since the early 70s, a global supplier of mobile and modular power solutions and temperature control. We're headquartered here in Scotland. We are the world's largest temporary power organisation with more than 10 gigawatts of power across our rental fleet. An employee count of over 6,000 spread across 200 locations and 80 countries with offices in every continent. We supply essentially short-term temporary power contracts to a range of customers and applications, including just general business applications, large events, music festivals, sporting events, industrial sites and mining. And we've got quite a diverse portfolio range of products. So we hire out gas and diesel generators of multiple sizes, from very small, kind of 20 kilowatts, right up to 1.8 to 2 megawatt units, load banks, heaters, air conditioners and chillers. And we also offer significantly now greener and cleaner HVO, so basically biofuel solutions and solar and batteries as part of our product range also. So what is Aggreko's commitment to net zero? So this is a complete extract from our website. So this is a kind of global statement. So our commitment to net zero is be transparent, accountable and ambitious in our sustainability goals. And that's not only within our own operations, but it's also in assisting our customers. So in parallel to reducing our own carbon footprint, we're certainly seeking to improve the lives of the people in the communities we serve, because we do serve a lot of remote communities worldwide, in countries in Latin America, Africa, Asia, etc. We're continuously monitoring our environmental impact. So we're looking at the efficiency of our premises, transportation. So that's transportation not only of incoming raw materials and spare parts going out from our facilities, but also the transportation of our equipment around the world as we deploy it on our customer sites. And we're rapidly adopting emissions reduction strategies. So we're looking at renewable energies. We've introduced a lot of renewable product into our fleet recently, batteries, solar solutions. We're looking at, rethinking business travel by remote monitoring more equipment and reducing the need for engineers to travel to sites based on, internet connection that we've now got and monitoring centres that we've got worldwide. We're reducing emissions and waste to landfill. So we are very committed as a global organisation to net zero. But what does it actually mean? So I'm looking at scope 1, 2 and 3 in this slide. So and Lomongate is a location, a Dumbarton central location. I will major on scope 1 and 2 points, but as a global business, scope 3 is massive for us. Scope 3 actually makes up 97% of Aggreko's global emissions. And of that 97%, 96% is basically the fuel we burn or the energy we consume on renting out our products to our customers. So we've got a massive opportunity in the scope 3 space. But in scope 1 and 2, what are we looking at? So we're looking at the efficiency of our facilities from an energy perspective. We're looking at consolidating facilities. We're looking at greener energy and cleaner energy solutions, renewables, hydrofuels, etc. We're looking at electrifying our vehicle fleet. We're looking at optimizing the way we test products. We're looking at our processes and how our processes generate energy and how we can look to reduce them. F-gas, so that is refrigeration gases. They're a massive part of Aggreko's business and a very, very big contributor to our scope 1 global performance. So we've got an opportunity to improve in this area because they are very, very corrosive if they get into the environment. And we're also looking at air quality, local air quality. So as well as our commitment to greenhouse gas reduction, local air quality is big for us as well. So our products, when we invest in new products, they're with emissions in mind. And we also look at after treatments and mufflers, etc., that reduce the actual output from the exhaust systems of our product. Going into scope 3 in the top right hand side, offer the lowest impact energy solutions to our customers. So when we're approached by our customers and we're asked to put in an energy solution, be it a mine in Australia or in Africa, or a data center in the UK, we're basically looking to provide that customer an optimized green solution, and indeed that's demanded of Aggreko now in the business that we're in. So we as well as still packaging, diesel or gas power generation, we're packaging that along with, batteries, solar panels, etc. We're promoting the use of biofuels rather than fossil fuels. So we're doing a lot in the scope 3 space. So what is our scope 3 emissions is typically our customer scope 1 emissions. So we've got a very big responsibility to assist their processes and plans. So just looking at Lomongate specifically now. Sorry about that. So taking it down now to the Lomongate location. So Aggreko's Lomongate facility is in the town of Dumbarton. We've had a presence in Dumbarton since the early 70s, but Lomongate opened in 2011, purpose-built manufacturing facility built by Aggreko. It was subject to further development in 2021 and 22. Basically, we merged all operations that existed in the town of Dumbarton into Lomongate. So we had a further 2 facilities in the town. We've now closed them down from an operational perspective, and all Aggreko's Dumbarton town facilities are a single Lomongate campus now. So we're a 19-acre site, 170,000 square foot manufacturing space, 27,000 office, 86,000 in terms of our rental depot. And the rental depot here at Lomongate is the one that covers basically the north of the UK, Scotland. We do have a very small depot in Inverness also, but that's the principal depot for the north of the UK. The site population is around 350. And it is Aggreko's global centre for manufacturing. So we do not have any other manufacturing sites worldwide. This is Aggreko's global manufacturing site, and it's also centralised engineering and supply chain. We also have a repair and refurbishment centre within the Lomongate facility, and of course we have a rental depot. So it's very much a multifunctional facility for Aggreko, and physically it's the largest site we have worldwide. So in terms of our energy at Lomongate, we are an ISO 50001 energy management certified organisation, and we're a B+ classified facility. In 2022, calendar year 2022, we imported just over 1.6 million kilowatt hours of electricity from the grid, which equates to 322 tonnes of CO2e. But as I'll state later, that is green energy, and I'll talk about that as we move on. We exported just under 400,000 kilowatt hours to the grid. So that's power that is effectively excess power that's produced from our manufacturing process when we're testing the generators, and that's the power that we give to the grid after we have used our self-produced power for the factory itself. And then we've got gas, which is a massive consideration for us. We've got production gas that's used to test our genset product. That's typically our 1.6 megawatt gas product, and we consume just over 3 million kilowatt hours of gas, equating to 552 tonnes. And then there's the gas used to run the facility, so that's for our hot water and heating systems, and just about 2.2 million kilowatt hours consumed there at 406 tonnes. And finally, there's our HVO fuel, hydrotreated vegetable oil. So as we did move from fossil diesel to a biofuel at the start of 2021, but we do consume 150,000 litres of fuel in our operation, and being a biofuel, that only converts to 5.3 tonnes, and I've got a conversion of what that would be if it was diesel in a later slide. So that's roughly what we are as a site profile. And the graph at the bottom just demonstrates that although January and February are outliers for last year, we must have had, just light production on these months, no overtime, etc. We generally do have a bit of a seasonal curve in terms of our electricity usage. Okay. So this is a roadmap. So we generally started on our journey, I would say, at the beginning of 2021. And what we're detailing in green here is what we believe we've achieved, completed and embedded into our Lomongate operation. So in 2021, we went essentially LED, not only in the offices, but also in the shop floor. Now in the offices, we went LED as we were doing a construction program on the facility, so it was a fairly straightforward introduction of high efficiency lighting. But on the shop floor, we were actually challenged with the lighting system we had in the shop floor in terms of spare part availability and just the aged status of it. So really the transition to LED in our shop floor was driven, you know, by a need rather than a desire. But I've got another slide on that shortly that shows the impact, but that's been a big contributor to our programme. We transitioned from diesel to HVO, so we went to a biofuel. There was a bit of work involved in doing that, and we also then started with I'll say our lowest complexity product, our 600 kilowatt diesel product, and we looked at how we test that product, and we looked at how we could reduce the test time on that. So as well as running it on HVO, we wanted to reduce the time on test. So these were all achievements that we had on 2021. Last year, 2022, we introduced electric vehicle charging stations, and I'll talk to that shortly. We recognised a reduction and an emissions avoidance of greater than 30% on our next generation gas generator. So that's our highest powered product that we make at Lomongate, 1.6 megawatts, and a very significant consumer of natural gas through the mains. So to take significant time out the test programme was a real win for us. Our depot operation transitioned to HVO also. So that was a big win, because that's not only HVO in the operation of the depot, so the material handling equipment, etc. That was HVO in terms of what we offer to our customers and how we package up solutions. So that wasn't just the Dumbarton depot, that was our depots UK wide. So a big transition there, and one that really stamps Aggreko's commitment as a UK business. And then exportation to the grid. So we did have some products that we manufactured that we didn't have the capability to export, but we done an exercise to ensure that they could export. So now really pretty much our whole product portfolio, we connect to the grid when we're testing. We first of all utilise the power for the factory, so we're not consuming for the grid, and then the excess that we produce, we provide to the grid. Our 2023 plan in the top left is further upgrades to our site power and lighting system. So our external lighting is now a targeted area for us. We're going to be introducing rooftop solar, and I'll talk about that shortly. We're looking to integrate a battery into our site electrical system as well. And we're transitioning our vehicle fleet to electric cars and vans, and indeed they're ordered, and we're in that lead time waiting period that exists on these type of vehicles at the moment. And then beyond 2023, we need to start looking at elimination of our natural gas. So we are getting to the point where it's all about gas for us at Lomongate, the volume of gas we consume. So we need to target programs that are going to reduce our gas consumption. We're going to look at things like waste heat recovery from the generators when they're on test. We have some site compressors that are well over specified, so there's an opportunity there. And we've got further development opportunities on our test cells to optimise them for grid connection and so forth. Yeah. So we're on a roadmap. We've got a lot to do, but we're moving at a decent pace, and we're really seeing a difference coming through in our greenhouse gas production figures. Okay, so just drilling in a wee bit to some of the initiatives that we've introduced. So we transitioned from diesel to hydro-treated vegetable oil at the start of 2021. We effectively done a 3-month trial on our not only our product and the product we manufacture in conjunction with our engine manufacturers, but also on our material handling equipment on site. So all our traditional diesel products, we immediately switched over to HVO, and HVO is a product that does come at a price premium. And in the bottom right hand side, I'm displaying a sort of 37% price premium compared to white diesel. but the emissions consideration is 90% minimum improvement. So it was a cost Aggreko as a business decided to take initially at Lomongate, but as I say, it's now been cascaded out to our UK operations and even into some of our European operations. So hydrotreated vegetable oil is improving in terms of a UK supply chain. When we introduced it, it was very much single source, but it's not now. There's more suppliers now, and it is growing quite quickly in its usage. The lighting systems upgrade. So as I say, we done office and we done the main factory area. And specifically driven by the main factory upgrades, we are recognising a 250,000 kilowatt hour electricity saving per year, which to us equated to about 3.5 years of an ROI. So we did go and view a couple of solutions down at Spirit Aerospace was one of them. So very much appreciate their support here. And we've got a much more controllable system as well. So it's motion sensing, light sensing. It's fully controllable. It's all zonal controlled. We can control lux levels in different areas. So if you've got quality or inspection areas in your factory, you can segregate these zones and do improve lighting in these specific areas. So it's been a very significant upgrade for us. We're still got some small optimizations we're working on because of the level of controllability in the system, but a big step forward. An introduction of electric vehicle charging. So we done that as part of the construction program, and we went live with the chargers at the start of 2022. Now this a consideration to one of your categories within your scope 3 emissions on employee commuting, because we wanted to put in an incentive for our employees to consider electric vehicles. So we introduced them, and it also greatly assists us with the electrification of our own fleet as well. So we introduced a system. We started monitoring it from April last year. So what I've displayed here is 10 months of information. So in terms of time, so this is the time that the chargers are providing power against what you would classify as standard working time, 8 AM to 5 PM Monday to Friday. We're seeing a utilisation of about 21%. That took a jump up in January, and I believe will continue to increase through 2023 because we are now seeing our employees transition over to electrical vehicles of their own choice, because we do offer the electricity to our employees at no charge. So what I would say is if you've already got chargers or you're thinking of introducing them, don't just monitor the amount of time cars are parked and plugged into them, because your utilization and the amount of power that you're providing can be quite different from what it visually looks like in terms of physical utilization. So across the 6 charging bays that we've got and the 3 chargers, we've still got quite a lot of scope there where we are now. So over that 10-month period, we provided just under 12,000 kilowatt hours of power, which equates to about 35,500 miles travelled, and a saving of 9.7 tonnes of CO2 equivalent. So that's 9.7 tonnes that would have been burned if that mileage was done in an internal combustion engine vehicle. So just some considerations there around electric vehicle charging installations. And indeed, I'm working in a programme now to install chargers throughout our UK locations. So in terms of our internal manufacturing processes, specifically our testing process, we carried out an exercise, and this was very heavily driven by our engineering team as well, and a very significant contributor. We carried out an exercise to really look at our test protocols and how we were testing product and drill into what the gain was in different aspects of the testing. And whilst reducing our carbon footprint was a driver for doing that, there was also other gains in terms of, obviously operator utilisation and test cell utilisation. But we did take about 44% from our main gas product, which is the biggest contributor to our emissions performance. And that's 44%. And a lot of that was based on the fact that some decisions on our test processes were historic. They were embedded in Agreko's culture, they were embedded in Agreko's product lines, from 20 years ago. And they didn't quite fit now with our current product line, our current engine technologies, the packages that we make. So we embarked on a program to reduce test times, and we've basically been very successful, and that contributed to, just about 400,000 kilowatt hours of electricity being provided to the grid. Now we do get paid for that. We do get paid for that, but nowhere near at the cost of procuring electricity. So the big gain there is basically utilising the power that we produce to run our own factory, and exporting the excess. We're still only in a position to recognise about 25% of the utilisation to run the factory, and that's based on the fact that these generators that we manufacture and test are so powerful. These 1.6 megawatts are so powerful, and really our factory's typical day-to-day consumption is around 350 kilowatts. So they're 4 to 5 times the power that our factory runs on. So at the moment, we're exporting about 75% of what we produce, but we're looking to improve on that by introducing batteries this calendar year. Okay, rooftop solar. So we finally got planning permission from Western Bartonshire Council in January this year to progress our rooftop solar installation. So we started the design work and the planning for this at the beginning of 2022. And we're looking to introduce and install a 652 kilowatt peak rooftop solution. And that's with consideration to the venting and the ventilation and the heating and exhaust systems that we've already got operating on the roof. So, the roof coverage could take more than that, but that is an appropriate coverage to allow us to maintain all the other systems that the roof supports and allow appropriate maintenance. We're expecting an annual performance yield of around 544,000 kilowatt hours. The estimated usage is around 80% of that, with 20% exportation. And these are figures that were supplied to us by the company that are going to install our solution. So they're very much based on our location and the other environmental considerations of our location. That should drive a self-sufficiency for us of around 25%. And we estimate a saving of about 87,000 per annum based on a cost of electricity of around 20 pence per kilowatt hour. That's quite a keen kilowatt hour cost at the price at the moment, but it is what we are recognising. So that just gives you an idea of the payback. 5.5 years on an ROI. And a CO2 reduction of around 115 tonnes. However, we really don't recognise that CO2 change because we are already procuring green electricity, and we're already on a green electricity tariff for our imported electricity. Could be a positive impact in terms of our Scope 3 Category 3 greenhouse gas improvement, but in terms of our Scope 2, we can already declare that we are net carbon zero on Scope 2 emissions because we procure guaranteed renewable energy. Okay, in terms of understanding your energy distribution across your facility, especially when you're consuming about 1.6 to 1.7 million kilowatt hours per annum, we introduced a metering system, Meterology. They're a Glasgow-based organisation, and we monitor about 30 points across the site. So this is across the power distribution in the facility. So we're understanding where we're seeing our power going. We're understanding where we can potentially reduce power out of operating times, and so forth. So we're always looking at the data, both real time and also historic, to understand where our energy is going, where our electricity specifically is going, and we will diversify this into gas measurement as well. So we are looking to further develop this meteorology system for our use. And then, what are we looking at in a future state? Well, we're looking at becoming as independent from the grid as possible. So the more we can become self-sufficient, the better. We're introducing the solar, we're optimizing what we get with our test cells. Our plan is to introduce a battery this year, although batteries are still expensive, but we will look to introduce one. And we want to look to try and drive our self-sufficiency into the 40% marks with the introduction of these other technologies. So very much on a mission now to reduce our grid consumption, and where possible, just get to that 40% plus self-sufficiency figure. And in terms of a scorecard, this is what 2022 looked like for us. So this is what we actually reported. In terms of facilities gas, so that's 406 tonnes. So that's gas used to operate heating and hot water systems. Gas consumed on product testing is 552 tonnes. That does represent a saving of 243 tonnes based on the test time reductions that we've done and the improvements we introduced. Green electricity, we can declare zero because we're on a 100% green tariff. That would have been 322 tonnes if we weren't on a green tariff. Company-owned vehicles, very small contributor, but we're still looking to improve it. HVO, 5.3 tonnes, would have been 543 tonnes if we were still burning fossil diesel. So over the 2 years, we've really made a big improvement there. And then refrigerant gas. Now we had a leak from one of our products during the year, where we did unfortunately lose some refrigerant gas into the atmosphere, and that equated to 12 tonnes. So not a great situation, one we're certainly looking to improve on. But that 12 tonne is based on one incident only. But we always will look to eliminate these where possible. So from 2022, it was 977.3 tonnes is what we reported for Lomondgate. That was actually down in the year before, but it's very difficult with the way we operate and the way we manufacture products and the whole diversity of the site to do a year-on-year comparison, because we're not producing tins of beans where you can basically maybe relate greenhouse gas production to an individual produced item. We've got so much variation in how we operate at Lomondgate, but I think we're really committed to doing the right things. We're committed to being able to calculate the improvements that we can make by introducing improved and more efficient technologies and improvements to our process. So that's where we got to in 2022. And just finally, what's our key principles? Eliminate, reduce, substitute is our kind of approach. Remove excess power consumption elements from your facility, and understand as if you got anything that's drawing energy but you're simply not using. Reduce consumption by identifying, replacing inefficient old lighting and heating. Think of the basics. Is your lighting and your heating systems current? Are they still appropriate for use? And then substitute. Look at alternatives to fossil fuels if you're burning diesel or petrol or any other fuel for that matter. Look at electrification, green grids, etc. And that's really what we're doing, not only at Lomondgate but as a UK and European business, and indeed globally. And I think that's my last slide. That's what I've got for you. Over to you, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian. I think now we're going to open the floor for questions. Anybody got any question for Ian on what you've just seen?
Good morning, Eric. I'd like to ask a question. This is Athena from Spirit Aerosystems. Ian, just want to say thank you. That was very informative. I just want to ask you about the scope to green energy supply. So I don't know if everyone else on the call, but providers are charging quite a lot for the green certificate and in comparison to previous years. So did Aggreko just look at that risen figure and just go, it's worth it, we'll go for it? Or how did you go through that process? Because the jump was quite significant to certify your supply as green, even though when you don't certify, it's already 97 or something. But to get that extra assurance, it was quite hefty.
Yeah, Athena, you're right. It certainly is quite hefty. We're locked into a UK-wide electricity and gas deal. So we've got a broker that operates on our behalf, and that broker, to be fair, has done an excellent job for Aggreko in the last year and a half when we've seen this horrific hike in energy costs. So yeah, we as a business, because we're essentially a business that is so embroiled in energy production, we made a decision that we would take the cost associated with green tariffs. But we have saved that by having a good broker representing us, and indeed we're paying an electricity price now of around 20 pence per kilowatt hour, which is quite exceptional in the current climate, and indeed our gas price is also low. So we believe we've saved the money through the use of a broker, but I absolutely acknowledge that it's not cheap to go to green tariffs.
Thank you.
Ian, it's Paul Sheeran, Scottish Engineer here. So I've got a question on the solar panel installation. So one of the conversations that we've been part of have been about companies where they found that they had to do a bit more matching of the output from their solar panel installation to the actual load of their operation. Was otherwise they ended up in a situation where they had quite a large excess that they were getting very little for in terms of the export tariff. Just interested, it sounds like yours is pretty well matched. Is that something that came up when you were doing the design? Was there a kind of modelling for the optimum? That'd be good to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And indeed the organisation that we've selected and we're going ahead with for the solar installation really done most of that work for us. So we originally started at around 750 kilowatt peak. However, once we done some more deeper dives into, the potential utilisation and also really what we were comfortable with putting on our rooftop, we reduced it down to 650 kilowatt peak. And that 80% figure, which we expect to utilise of that, we absolutely think that we'll do better than that. So we did spend a bit of time ensuring that we could match appropriately the size of the installation to our utilisation. That said, we did also want to be seen to making a bit of a small contribution to the green grid approach. Just assisting Western Barnsley Council, Lothlorien and Trossachs National Park, etc. So we did have that discussion with them when we were going through the planning consent process. But yeah, matching your consumption to your size is quite key. Absolutely.
Thanks, Ian.
Any other questions, or shall we?
Yeah, I've got one. It's Andrew Cornell from Alstom. Very interesting presentation, Ian. What made Aggreko start this process? Was it several years ago? Was it financial? Was it customer pressure? Was it perhaps felt the right thing to do? What sort of led the approach at the outset?
Thanks, Andrew. I think a combination of all of these. We are an energy provider. That's what we do as a business. So I think it's essential that we are seen as being leading when it comes to, you know, emissions associated with the provision of energy. So Aggreko as a business, you know, established decarbonisation programs really beginning in 2019. I would say they started to really take traction through 2020 and into 2021, but they certainly have decided, you know, to take cost hits in delivering, you know, improved greenhouse gas performance in Scope 1 and Scope 2. And you know, just a point on that, Aggreko's global emissions are 97% Scope 3. So only 3% of our global emissions are from Scope 1 and 2. So that's from our facilities and what our processes produce. But we are still very, very committed as an organisation to reduce our greenhouse gas and decarbonise where possible on Scope 1 and Scope 2. So as a business, there is a lot of cost absorption in doing that, but also the markets we're in, and you know, the customers that we talk to, etc., pretty much demand it of Aggreko that, you know, we are very heavily concentrated on our net zero programme.
Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, Ian. It's Athena again. I've got one more question. Questions actually. It's about the HVO. So I don't even drive, but this is something I want to share with my colleagues. So I'm interested in. So we're in Moncton, not far from you. I'm interested in availability, one, and two. I know there's a 37% pay kind of extra, but I'm interested in the trial that you did, like to make it more attractive to my colleague. Like, are we able to borrow homework, or does every site have to do specific trials? You know, I'm just wondering what's the pay threshold for a company like us if I wanted to persuade my colleague to consider this for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the trial was very, very simplistic. HVO is a 100% transferable product to diesel, if that's what you're used to burning in your process, Athena. You can dilute them together. You do not need to clean out diesel tanks. You could buy, you know, a small volume for trial on, you know, be it material handling equipment or whatever you're burning it on. It really, we knew it would work before we even entered into a trial, because from a product perspective, all our engine manufacturers already promoted HVO as being available and usable on their engines. It was really a case of making sure it worked okay on our material handling equipment. I think we've got about 20 forklifts and different devices that move equipment around the site. It was a very, very simple, and the preparation involved is almost nil. The preparation is almost nil. So I would certainly offer you assistance, but I would not be daunted by the thought of setting up a transition trial.
What about availability? Is it easily?
It's a lot easier now. When we introduced it in 2021, there was only a single source in the UK, a company called Crown Oils, who operate out the Ellesmere port area. Now there's multiple sources. I think there's certainly half a dozen sources for HVO within the UK, and we're on, I'm pretty sure we're next day delivery on typically 20,000 litre drops.
Thank you.
Any further query? Any further questions for you?
Yeah, hello, it's Rory McLeod here from Reiki Steel Tech. Can you hear me?
Yeah, morning, Rory.
Hello. I noticed the return on investments were really quite short on a lot of these projects that you've done. Do you think that this process overall is going to cost the company money or save the company money?
I think over a typical CapEx depreciation period of 10 years, it's absolutely going to save us money. The cost of energy hike. I mean, as I say, as I mentioned to Athena, we use a broker in the UK for our energy who have been a tremendous advantage to us. But we are really in a cost of electricity now that's not the norm, and same in gas. So we are expecting to take a hit this year as our current agreement ends. But I believe over a typical depreciation period of the solar, if you're starting to get payback and full ROI halfway through a 10-year capex repayment period, I think you're doing very well, and we're certainly hoping to see that, yeah, if not better. I think in some cases it can be quite difficult. I mean, for example, if you've got appropriate lighting systems in your shop floor and in your offices, to invest in changing to something that is not a significant contributor to your environment in terms of your office environment or your factory environment, that is certainly a thought to do. But I think if you do the calculations, if you get assistance and do the calculations, moving from 100-watt luminaries down to 5 watts, it gives you, more power output and better lux levels. It really is. It's a journey I would suggest you maybe consider.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks everybody for great questions, and thanks Ian for taking the time for the presentations and taking the time to answer those questions. I would suggest that if you've got any more queries, please do send them either to me, Ian, or Scottish Engineering, and I will then move on and go through the second part of today's webinar. If that's okay with everybody, so I'm going to share my screen. So if anyone wants to be shared. So that's the presentation. So you should see my screen now, and it's about what we're going to talk to, what I'm going to talk to you about today. And it's what we did last year, which is a review of all the things we did last year. Last year we reviewed what we did in 2021. This is your first webinar 2023, and we're going to be reviewing what we did in 2022 and our contributions. And what's more important, I think, is what's available to you to support you on that journey to net zero. And in terms of contribution, we looked at the webinars, and specifically we look at where they are, the microsite, where you can find information, and the takeaway from the webinars we delivered last year. We look at training, because we've done a lot of work on training and how we can provide information and the kind of training we've been involved in. And last but not least, we looked at the one-to-one, and we are having a lot of one-to-one with businesses, organizations, skills providers. And in here, we want to share with you what is being discussed at those one-to-ones and what our findings are. So in terms of contribution for the webinars, you will find all the webinars on your microsites, and you've got the link, the URL here. As I said, those slides will be made available, so you'll be able to go there. But you'll find a microsite if you go to the Scottish Engineering website. In there, you'll find videos like the one we're doing today, which is the recording, and you'll also find the slides. So my recommendation would be look at the slides. If you find something that is of interest to you or tickle your curiosity, you can either then look at the section in the video for more information, or you can get in touch with me or Scottish Engineering and we see how we can help. So today you'll find 13 of those webinars. Today is webinar number 14. As I say, in 2021, we did the awareness series. So that was the 5W and 2Hs of net zero. And we delivered the chapter series, and the chapter series was based on the 8 chapters that are basically defined in the Scottish government. plans to achieve net zero by 2045, and then the order we picked up the chapters were followed from a quick survey we did at the time. So that's what you have, and that's maybe. So whereas if you want, the awareness series was about net zero overall, the chapter series was specific on some specific sectors or industries, so that may be of interest to you. And what we did for the webinars, and this is where you get some downloads, is for each webinar we went horizontally. And that means each webinar had a section about discover for, pardon me, for a given chapter, discover, define, develop, deliver. You're looking at innovations, looking at opportunities, looking at the skills required to develop those opportunities, and the roadmap to deliver the ambitions that were identified and the innovations that were identified. But what we've done is then for all, we've consolidated vertically. So you can go now and download slides or presentations or a PDF file, which looking at, for example, innovation for all 8 chapters or opportunities for all 8 chapters. So it's more about getting inspirations and looking at different things. So that's a download. So we don't do webinars on that, but the download is available. In 2022 now, we worked on a net zero series, and what the net zero series was about is the standards was one of them, which we did actually at the end of 2021, but methodology is a big deal, and I'll come back to that, but it's treating the standards and how you measure your emissions. We, as we are doing today, we did a 2021 review, and we developed a SMART roadmap process. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's what we looked at and what we've seen here with Ian's roadmap and Aggreko's roadmap. It is a SMART roadmap. And we also launched the feedback series. So we started with time and power in June. And then we looked at another webinar looking at how do you go from ambition to solution? And that was the ideation piece. So how do you create new stories? And once you've developed that, there is a recognition that once you've done all these and you've done the maximum, it's unlikely you'd be reaching net zero yourself. So you will need a level of offsetting. So we thought we'd do another webinar on offsetting specifically. And all these, as we talked about today and we heard about today, can come at a cost. So we looked at net zero versus the cost. So the greenwashing and offsetting was with Stexo. The energy cost was RWG. And as you've seen today, we're looking at our review, but we are very pleased to have Ian's and Aggreko today. So in terms of downloads, if you focus on the methodology again, you can go into the microsite, find the webinars, find the slides, and really the slides give you an opportunity to look at what you think the standard will work for you or the one that won't work for you. But as well as that, on the microsite, then you can get an Excel file, and that's what you've got here, which gives you more detail. So use the slide to identify what you think is the best standard, the best methodology for your situation. And then if to confirm it is the case, you can go to the Excel file and find out what works for you, or is it actually the right standard for you. Ultimately, you will need to procure the standard. For copyright reason, we couldn't put everything in it. So if you want to achieve it, you need to procure it, and some of them you need to purchase them, and some of them are free of charge. So that's what you can look at. In terms of webinars here, what you're saying is the engagement side of things, and whereas with primary or the attendance is primarily driven by your members, it is also open to non-members. So it is quite holistic. We're looking at helping any organisation within Scotland, or even further afield for that matter, that we can do members and non-members, but a strong focus obviously on members. And then when you look at members on the right-hand side, you can see that how we are pan Scotland. So we're trying to support all members across the whole of Scotland. We're not really only focused on the Central Belt. well, as it is where the majority of our members are, this is not our only focus, and we go even further afield to England. So be reassured or aware that who come and join is not only numbers, and who come and join and hear what we've got to say is across the whole of the UK. So if I look at the webinar 7 and the webinars and the takeaways, and starting with that webinar 7s, so we looked at, as I said, 4 standards, and the takeaway from that webinars was really that the standard converge. They converge on the 3 areas: the principles and the overarching principles, the boundaries and the reporting. And that's quite important, because the fact they converge means that all the work you do in that direction is applicable regardless of the methodology you're going to select. However, when you've selected your methodology, that's where you find out that the standard diverge. And they may diverge on, the completeness. So the completeness is one of the principles, but the scopes can be slightly different, or accuracy or transparency. That's some of the key principles you see where they converge. But when you go to the nitty-gritty and look at how they measure it, that's where you may find out that there is a level of divergence. So on that basis, then we thought, right, let's develop a process that deliver at the end of it a smart roadmap. And what we came up with was that 7-step process, which was making the whole roadmap at the end smart. And we looked at it by using a lean tool called the 5W and 2Hs. And the relationship with the standards is, as I said, that's where they converge. So defining your ambition, the what you want to do, and your vision, the why you want to do it. You're defining your target year and your base year, if you want. That's also part of every standards. They all converge. That's the when. And the where is your boundaries, both organizational and operational. And for all those, then it doesn't matter. So getting on a journey is okay, because you don't have to choose from day one what methodology you're going to use. But once you do, that's when the standard diverge. So the how, the measurable, the methodology, it may change. And then from that will flow potential change. So resources in the large sense of the word, i.e. human and financial resources, and tracking your progress, and not last but not least, sharing that information. So that's what we've developed, and the idea here is to demystify the idea of net zero. You will find a lot of organizations falling over each other, trying to support you at a cost. What we're trying to do is demystify it, make it as simple as possible, at low cost as possible, putting you in charge of your roadmap. So what was the takeaway from those? Saying the what, is because if you, the why is because if you do not do it, someone else will. And that's your competitors you've got to think about it. And they offer you an opportunity to differentiate. And that's what you've heard this morning. It's just like, how do you make yourself different? And then you need a base year and you need a target year. So that's your one, and you need to define your boundaries. And again, that's what Ian alluded to this morning, between Lomond Gates as a boundary and the global as a boundary. So the scope 1 and 2 was big in Lomond Gate, but not so big from a global point of view. So that's your organizational boundaries, and then your operational boundaries, that's your scopes. And then you need to think about the how, and that's your methodology, what we just talked about. And then the who, then your stakeholders. And stakeholders are obviously your employees, but they're also your customers and your consumers and your suppliers, and it's still interested, And finally, that's the human piece. It's a fundamental, the financial piece. And you need to share. And share that roadmap is a lot of good work. That's what, again, Ian has been keen enough and kind enough to do this morning. So that's about sharing all the work done. So webinar 10 was about ambitions. How do you define your ambitions? And then for that, we were joined with Diamond Power, who showed us, the lesson learned and their journey so far back in June last year. And for us, is we applied what we preached basically to Scottish engineering. So we developed a roadmap which is specific, and we want to be net zero by 2045 at the latest. which is measurable. And for that, we've set up measuring systems and ambitions and trackers. And that's the percentages you can see here. It's also achievable, and we've put a plan together to focus on scope 1 and 2 initially, then scope 3, and then we'll be looking at strategizing, and all the while we're doing influencing, which is what we're doing today. And it is relevant because we're looking at and considering only 7 greenhouse gas from the Kyoto protocols. And last but not least is time bound. We've got a base year, 2019, we've got a target year, 2045, and the latest, we've got some interim year. So that's how we've applied, the greenhouse gas protocol, the SME, which we are using as a methodology, the SME, which is a pledge we've made, the Scottish Net Zero Roadmap, and the Exponential Roadmap Initiative. So we're using all those for inspirations, and we've developed our own roadmap. And that roadmap is a smart roadmap based on the 7 steps I've just talked about. In webinar 11, we looked at solutions and how do you go from ambitions to solutions. And for that, we developed a brainstorming process, and where we started with a point of view. From that point of view, we developed 2 how may we questions, which we are going to brainstorm. And we brainstorm using a system or a tool which is called 635, and that gave us about 130 ideas in about 30 minutes, usually with 5 people. So quite valuable. We then cluster all those ideas and went there with 17 clusters, out of which, through multi-voting, we got 3 priorities. So that's how we develop, or if you want, a process where we can support. We can provide you support on how you generate ideation, how you go from your ambition to the solutions. And then if you look at our carbon reduction plan, which is really what you want to do, so that's what we did, 2019 to 2021. And that's what the ideation session was ending up with. So if we deliver everything in the ideation session that is planned, then we would reduce our 2021 further. But what we ended up with is still some bonds that needed to be offset. So we thought about the next webinar, and that's the one we did with Texo, would be about offsetting. And what do we do about offsetting? What is offsetting? And the takeaway from that webinar was, first of all, Texo just presented their learning and their journey to net zero. So again, all those are available, as I said, on the webinar, on the microsite, sorry. And in looking at what were the takeaway, the big takeaway from offsetting is to be part of the strategy, but it cannot be the only strategy. It cannot be a license to pollute. And then to avoid that, to avoid the greenwashing piece of it, then there are 7 principles that you need to abide by when you look at offsetting. And those 7 principles tend to be covered by the standards, especially if the standard has been accredited by Aggreko. So that's what you want to look at. But more importantly also, as in terms of offsetting, there's a lot of projects. There is a nature-based project we all know about, planting tree or peatland or woodland, forestation, that sort of things, but it is more than that. But the key thing here is that there is a recognition that the demand far outstrips the supply. So there is an expectation that prices of offsetting are going to go up. So the costs are going to increase of offsetting, and that's due simply by the demand, because offsetting is simply a financial system. It is how you finance places around the world to minimize or absorb the carbon. So there is a cost. And because of that, we thought, right, next webinar, webinar 13, we'll be looking at cost, the cost of all that net zero. How do you get there? And for that webinar, we were joined by RWG, who presented their roadmap and the work and the learning they've done to date on net zero. And our webinar was looking at cost implementations. And what we found out, and that's what we talked about this morning, is that you can achieve a significant reduction of your scope 1 and 2 at no cost. And the way it's done is on average across those 9 industries, if you want, or 9 sectors, is 50% going from the food. We believe that they can achieve 70% reduction at no cost to shipping, which they believe they can achieve 20 to 30% reduction at no cost. And the average being 50%. And how that's done by reducing emissions and therefore saving. So if you think about this morning, if Aggreko or when Aggreko will become self-sufficient, they will have generated significant cost saving. And you want to earmark those cost saving for further improvement. So 25% is your saving from reductions of emissions, and then those savings you just reinvest them in other technology, give you another 25%. So you end up with an average of 50% at no cost, especially focusing on scope 1 and 2, which is what we heard this morning. So we're learning, and the takeaway from that webinar was which one to choose from, net zero or energy saving. And then the answer to that was both because they are concurrent, and they are concurrent because net zero is about reducing your resources usage, and if you reduce your resources usage, you will improve your cost. So the reason why you would do it, not because that's not going away, that's definitely what's happening, and that's definitely the ambition of the Scottish government, the UK government, and even from Europe and worldwide. That's where everybody wants to be and go. And that's why you've heard this morning, the customer and the consumer are asking for it. And what you've got a choice of things you can do. And again, you've heard all these this morning. It was about efficiency, about engagement. So you've got your employee, you've heard about the charging point this morning, you've heard about efficiency in testing, you've got what you do with your excess, so it could be waste offsetting, or in this case, it could be storage. And finally, it was about how to leverage the former to deliver the later. As I said, if you become net zero, by default, you're likely to deliver energy saving. And there is another area you may want to be looking into, which is data and the data hub, which allow you to do that into a proper, I would say, disciplined manner. So all the contributions, as well as the webinars we did, was training. So we started doing training with NMIS, and that was about developing an e-learning, and it's still a work in progress at the moment. It was focused on 3 key areas: the what, the why, and the how. So we've developed, if you want, a train session, which we can share with them, or we've shared with them, which isn't available yet, but it is being worked upon. What we've also worked is deliver postgraduate lectures to universities, postgraduate, and that was done in collaboration with the University of West of Scotland. We deliver 10 sessions. Each session is made about an hour and a half lecture. So when we looked at each session was one of those steps, the 7 steps you've looked at. Each session was focused on one of them, so an hour and a half on each one of those steps. So there is more, I think, going into the details, it's more holistic than generic. So that's the 2 training we've delivered, and all these is also available to members or non-members that just want to get in touch. And last but not least, the one-to-one. So we had a lot of one-to-ones over the past 18 months. We've got 221 today, and a strong focus on SMEs. They are about 65% of our one-to-ones, as well as the scale providers, and they're about 24%. So between the 2 of them, you're almost like 90% of who we're talking to. And again, here, if you look at, the engagement is mainly on our members, but not only members. So that's the one-to-one we're having. And when we look at members on the right-hand side again, you can see how it is pan Scotland. So it doesn't matter where you're located, we are interested to support you, and we will do our best to support you. So that's the one-to-one engagement. Now, if I'm looking at what do we discuss in those one-to-ones, so the top conversations is the tier 1, if you're the top tier 3, tier 1 is big practice. What we're being asked about is, what's the methodology? How do I measure? What's the standards? Can I pledge? What is the pledge? Is there legislation out there? Is that going to be required? Is it compulsory? Is it optional? So that's what we've developed. We've developed guidance on standards. That's what I've talked about earlier on. You've got, Excel sheets, you've got slides, you've got videos, and we've developed training, and we're making interventions. So we're going to organizations, SME businesses to help them getting on that road. So that's the best practice bit. Then the next big conversation is about the roadmap, and that can be feel quite complicated. It's where do you start? It's going to be quite confusing. As I said, there's a lot of organizations out there that's going to come and tell you they're going to help you, but they are making it look like and sound like a very complicated process. So you're going to need them to help you. So what we've tried to do is put you back in control, and in that develop a simple 7-step roadmap. So that's what we've developed. We clarified what each step should be made of. But again, we can support you, and that's a strong outcome of all those one-to-one we have with businesses. Keep it simple and keep it valuable. And finally, the big one is about people. And really that tends to be driven principally by the interaction we have with the skill providers. But what we're doing for interaction is understanding what the skills provider can provide to you to add value to your business, so we can do an efficient and proper signposting. So when you're looking for a given set of skills, where are we going to signpost you? So just instead of just throwing the ball over the wall, we just want to make sure that where we signpost somewhere valuable. So that's really the outcome of those one-to-one I'm having with skills providers. So that's the 3 tier 1, if you want. The 3 tier 2, the first one is support. And people are looking for support, businesses are looking for support, even the skills provider are looking for support. And it's not always financials, and that's the non-financial support. And what do we do? So we develop all those webinars. We're up to 14 now. And some of them can be, or most of them will be holistic. Some of them will be holistic, some of them will be generic, sorry. So the first series was generic. We were trying to address the needs of a range of organizations. But then we looked at chapters that became more holistic, and then we looked at specific areas like offsetting, like ideations, so very specific. So that's why we've developed a whole series of support, and we can support you by coming on site, delivering either innovation, ideation session, or delivering a review of the 7-step process and what to include or not. The other area is opportunities, and that's where people want to understand there is 2 sets of opportunity: the opportunity to become net zero yourself, and the opportunity that net zero generates, and how do you leverage those opportunities. So in here, for yourselves, there is the 4 Ds I mentioned earlier on. We're also looking at trends and innovations, but there is also the signposting the peers. How do we match you to other businesses who are members? How do you enhance those opportunities? So that's what we've been doing. That's how we're helping businesses in getting a better chance, a greater opportunities. And finally, like everything else, finance, how you fund it. And then from we're keeping an eye on the grants that are available. We have been pointing a lot of business to that Find Business Support, which is a Scottish Enterprise website. And we're doing case studies like what we're doing today. So you've had, Diamond Pearl, TXO, RWG, and today Aggreko. So that's how we are hopefully helping, and I hope this is all there. So I would like to summarize what the support is. It's all on the microsite, and all that information, and it could be information overload, is available there. My recommendations is go through the slides, run the videos, and then go from there. And then if you see something of interest, then do come and reach out. There is also the opportunity for one-to-ones that you can reach out to Scottish Engineering and would be supporting you. We can talk about overlays and see if we need further help on either looking at developing a roadmap or starting that journey, or even looking at a solution from a region. So I would like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. It's much appreciated, especially big thanks to Ian for stepping in and sharing all that good information about Aggreko and their own roadmap. And I think I'll open the floor for any question you may have. Okay, no question. Okay, so it's no problem. If anything comes along, no, don't hesitate to send a question, a request later on, and get in touch. As I said, the key thing here, we're here to help. And we've built a significant amount of information and knowledge over the last 18 months, and then which has never been updated. If you want, the webinar 1 and 2, for example, were done some time ago. But we've got all our information, and we can help both in terms of online and in terms of on-site. So please do not hesitate. And again, thank you very much to Ian. Much appreciated for joining us. And I think we'll stop here. If there's no questions, and then give you 10 minutes back. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.